Hello students, welcome back to the Analyst for 28 September 2024, where we will be discussing 9 most important articles from the Hindu and the Indian Express. Now in this edition of the Analyst, we'll be dividing the discussion into two parts. Firstly, we'll be starting with the analysis part of two articles. We'll be discussing about Delhi air pollution in the first article, and in the second article we'll be looking into some hard land questions, which is an editorial pertaining to the Indian Express newspaper. In the second part, we'll be discussing 7 more important articles in our simplified portion, the articles of which are following. So stay tuned. Hello students, welcome to the very first article. So in this one, we'll be discussing about a very serious issue that pertains to this time of the year in our national capital region. And recently, the Supreme Court has wrapped the CAQM, or the Commission for Air Quality Management, in the NCR region, that is the Delhi region, that the court is having various apprehensions over the increasing amount of pollution, that is air pollution in the region, and also regarding the ever consistent or ever persistent issue of stubble burning that takes place in the surrounding states near Delhi. Now this is a very important topic for our prelims, where we have to discuss about the various issues and say concepts of environment, ecology and climate change. We have to also look at GS3 portion of our syllabus, where we have to discuss about various environmental pollution and the degradation aspects of our syllabus. Now, to start with, we'll be discussing firstly about the scenario of air pollution over entire India over a period of time. If we start from 2000 and look at the percentage of people affected by PM 2.5 pollutant. Now can anyone tell me in the comments that what are the various kinds of pollutants we generally take into considerations when we talk about air pollution in nature? Now when we look at one of the major pollutants, that is 2.5 particulate matter or PM 2.5, we find that the share of population exposed to various levels of PM 2.5 pollution is increasing over a period of time. If we look at the year 2000 and compare with that of 2010 and 2020, we look that the darker areas are increasing over the period of time, where earlier the darker areas were kind of constrained, kind of above say the Tropic of Cancer, but right now if we see, it is becoming more and more prevalent all across India. So this is the main thing that we have to look at in this particular article. Now when we look at India, we find that the concentration of PM 2.5 pollution and the various other pollutants is increasing over a period of time. We have to specially look at Delhi, because in this article we'll be focusing our discussion on Delhi. Now we'll look at the various years from 2016. Right, we find that the average say daily PM 2.5 pollution, right, over the last 24 hours over these particular years have been consistently extremely high. It is much more above the WHO recommended level of 5, right? So this is what we have to understand, that over a period of time also the average AQI is also increasing over a period of time, and also it is kind of say fluctuating over the years, but it is actually quite high, right? Also when we look at the report of climate trends, we find that Delhi, right, Noida, Ghaziabad and the surrounding regions are actually the most polluted regions, not only in this region but also across the entire country. Also, can you let me in the comments that which are the top 5 polluted cities across the world, and is Delhi between the top 5 cities which are polluted all across the world? Now, when we talk about Delhi, when we discuss about the various causes that is very specific to Delhi, these are the reasons why Delhi's Achilles heel is very much seen during the pollution scenario in this particular time of the year. Firstly, if we start with the pattern of the wind direction, October is generally the month where we see in India, it is associated with the withdrawal of the monsoon season, right? So that is when is marking the withdrawal of the monsoon season in northwest India, and the direction of the wind changes from easterly to northwesterly winds. So that is where a lot of say pollutants which are say accrued in these parts of the world, they also are brought in using this northwesterly winds. And also we find that the areas of Rajasthan is also very prone to dust storms. So this is also the time when a lot of dust storm and the associated dust pollution accrues to Delhi. Apart from this, also we know that October, November and gradually December, these are the months of cold season, and we know that cold air is very dense. And when we understand the nature of the pollutants which are in the atmosphere, so if the cold air is very dense, the pollutants cannot escape. If we compare the same scenario with normal conditions, we generally find the various columns of air, right, in the atmosphere. Firstly, we have generally warm air, then we have cold air, then we generally have cooler air. But I told you, during winter months, the cold air is generally lying at the bottom layer of the atmosphere, and this is particularly true for Delhi. And this cold air has trapped a lot of pollutants, and this is also below the warm air column. This is something which we know as thermal inversion. Thermal inversion totally prevents, or say, this warm air just above the cold air column, it is preventing this kind of pollutants to reach the higher levels of the atmosphere, and this is preventing dispersion. So the pollutants become trapped in this particular region, right? Also, if you look, right, the high wind speed are very effective at dispersing pollutants, but winters are not associated with this kind of high wind speeds. So this is also not dispersing the various pollutants. Apart from this, we also see the present scenario. Also, this was covered in the previous analyst sessions, that right now the farm fires or the stubble burning is very much prevalent in the states of Western Uttar Pradesh, Punjab and Haryana. So what happens? The farmers try to burn all their farm residues or stubble. So this is known as stubble burning, as we can compare with the last year's data, right? And also over the years, right, we find that the stubble burning is a very, very serious issue which is accruing from the neighborhood regions of Delhi, and whatever the dust, whatever the pollutant, whatever the particles that are coming from this burning, they are accruing to Delhi region. Also, if we see over the period of years, over a particular period of time, right, the stubble burning cases have been increasing, but also it has been contained in 2022-23, but also the level of the pollutants that are released via stubble burning is extremely high, and that is also what Supreme Court also talked about in the recent case. Now, apart from this, there are various other reasons also. These are very usual reasons. Firstly, we have the Diwali season which is approaching, right? And during this time, people burst a lot of firecrackers, and you know that bursting a lot of firecrackers release a lot of pollutants in the atmosphere. Apart from this, we have high amount of vehicles which are there in the capital region. We have various industries, they also release a lot of pollutants. Then we have dust storms, frequent dust storms, we have firecrackers, we have domestic biomass burning, and also the various illegal waste management and the various say garbages located all across the national capital region. They also attribute to higher instances of air pollution. Now, apart from this, we also have a summarized report regarding a study which is actually carried out by Urban Emissions Research Institute. We also can see the majority of the things we discussed has been summarized here. That is transport, dust, residential reasons, dust storms, agricultural burning, right? So these are all the reasons which are attributed to high amount of pollution. Now, we understand that Delhi has been embroiled in this issue for a long period of time. That is why it is not that the government did not do anything. Government has been taking some consistent and serious efforts to reduce the pollution. Firstly, the governments of Delhi, Punjab, Uttar Pradesh and Haryana, they have been coordinating over a period of time to reduce the issue of crop residue, or say the stubble burning. For this, we also have a very indigenous variety of crop residue management. Particularly, we have happy seeders, we have Pusa bio decomposer, right, which is actually a kind of a liquid that you can mix, or say liquid chemical, you can mix with liquid water, and we can actually spray that over the residue, and this will be increasing the rate of decomposition of this residue, and that same will be mixing with the soil, and hence it will be also enhancing the soil fertility. But there have been various issues as to the availability of the biodecomposer, as to the increased amount of pricing, as to the low adoption of usage by the farmers in the region. So these are the various issues of this crop residue management too. Then Delhi has also banned the very old vehicles which are in say flying in this capital region. Then we also have a Green Delhi app to say increase the awareness among the citizens to adopt sustainable lifestyles to reduce air pollution. Then we have installed various water sprinklers, smoke towers to actually make the dust and the various particulate matter settle and interact with the water and the various dust, and they can settle at the ground level. Next, we also have various initiatives to reduce the vehicular pollution in the region. Firstly, we have pollution control certificates. We have the various instances where the Bharat stage 6 vehicles have been made compulsory kind of to be plying on various amounts of roads during this particular year. We also have had the odd and even scheme, right? So this was also a scene when according to your license plates, your odd and even numbers will be deciding the day you will be plying on the road or not. So these were the various initiatives. Apart from this, the Delhi government is also increasing a lot of investments in hydrogen buses, hydrogen fuel run buses. We also have electronic vehicles being adopted by a lot of people in the city. Apart from that, the government is also purchasing a lot of EV fueled buses in the region. So these are the various initiatives that on the transportation side we are taking. Next, the Commission on Air Quality Management is also a very, very important aspect into the management of the entire air pollution scenario in the national capital region. Now we'll be discussing about CAQM in the next slide. Firstly, we'll be looking into one of the tools that CAQM has, that is known as a Graded Response Action Plan. Now in this Graded Response Action Plan, we have various stages, stage 1, 2, 3, 4. It depends on the air quality. For example, if you look at the air quality here, it is the air quality index which is covering the various pollutants. We have PM10, we have PM2.5, we have NO2, we have O3, CO, SO2, NH3 and PB, right, or lead, right? And please note that we do not have carbon dioxide. See, carbon dioxide is a global warming gas, and these are all the air pollutants, right? So these are actually quite different. Now, according to this graded response, or say whatever will be the AQI, if it is good, if it is satisfactory, if it is moderately, if it is poor, serious and so on, according to the level of AQI or the air quality, the CAQM will be taking various restrictive actions on various, say for example diesel vehicles maybe, or say in the stage 2 will be restricting various diesel generators, and various, say for example in stage 3 will be restricting various BS3 vehicles. Schools will be closed. In stage 4, we'll be taking the most strict action, where we'll be only permitting, say, EVs, CNG run vehicles, BS6 vehicles, and banning all the other vehicles. And say we'll be also closing the institutes, education institutes and so on, so that the people's quality of life is not affected. Apart from this, Delhi government is also taking winter action plan, which we'll be discussing at the very last. Firstly, let us look about the Commission for Air Quality Management. So this commission, the main mandate is that we must be having a better coordination, research, identification and resolution of all of the problems related to the degradation of the air quality index in the national region. And this is a statutory body but not a constitutional body. There have been many calls to make the CAQM a constitutional body with proper powers to increase its enforcements, but it is as of now a statutory body. Next, when we discuss about the powers, it has the powers to restrict activities that affect air quality. For example, if a particular industry in Delhi is polluting too much, it will be closing the industry, or say it will be imposing fines and penalties and fees, right? It can also investigate, it can also conduct its own research. Whatever directions it will be giving, it will be binding on all of the people, on all the stakeholders in this region. It will be directly also accountable to the parliament, hence signifying how powerful the committee can be with reference to its air pollution controlling aspect. When we talk about the composition, these are the facts which are important for our prelims examination. It has a chairperson who is having the rank of a secretary or a chief secretary, right, who can have a term of around 3 years or up to 70 years. There will be 5 ex officio members who are either chief secretary or secretaries of the State Department of Environment. Next, we'll be having 3 full-time technical members, 3 members from NGOs, and a member from the Central Pollution Control Board, ISRO, and Niti Aayog. And recently, CAQM also came under the fire under the Supreme Court because, according to Supreme Court, the CAQM did not take adequate measures to combat air pollution. Supreme Court has told, like pollution, your directions are in the air. That means it is not having a proper implementation of the various measures. So, for example, the GRAP, or say the various initiatives to reduce stubble burning in the region, so it is not being able to cope up with them, and that is why the further cases will be heard in the coming few weeks. And here, when we talk about what must be done, what we should be doing, firstly, we can have a nodal national authority of controlling air pollution with constitutional powers to actually enhance its enforcement over a period of time. Next, a SEBI can also have a business responsibility sustainability code to reduce the emissions of, say, listed companies and say the various other companies which would actually bring in compliance from the private sector. So a SEBI can actually bring in norms to actually have various provisions to reduce the particulate matter that are emanating from the private sector. Then the clean air must be also designated as an investment category. So various investors like you and me, so for example the banks and the various foreign investors also, they can invest in clean air initiatives, clean air programs that can enhance the investment sector too. Next, we must be increasing funds, capacity, or say the human integrity in this particular matter, or say increasing the amount of say workforce. We must be training them. We must be also spreading the awareness of having a sustainable livelihood, sustainable lifestyle, which was promoted by our Prime Minister, which is known as the LIFE initiative, right? Which is known as a lifestyle for environment to reduce our carbon footprint over a period of time. Next, also we need to have proper amount of public transport. We must be encouraging our friends, family members. Also, the government must be promoting better amount of public transport, pool cars facilities. We must be having better amount of EVs apart from the existing we already have. The Delhi government can also introduce ward-wise parking, which limited slots, and also a parking tax to reduce the number of vehicles that the people unnecessarily use. Right. Next, we can also adopt lessons from London, China, Singapore, Hong Kong, who have done excellent practices to reduce the amount of air pollution, such as designated particular roads or stretches where there will be no cars, only people can travel there using, say, bicycles or say walking, to promote better amount of sustainable livelihood for the people. Next, we also have this Delhi Winter Action Plan. You can pause the screen. You can actually look at various initiatives, right? So these are the initiatives that the government is trying to take as of now, but more needs to be done over a period of time. So this was all that was important for this article. We have a mains PYQ from 2015. That is a very interesting question, that Mumbai, Delhi and Kolkata are the 3 megacities of the country. But air pollution is much more serious issue in Delhi as compared to the other 2. Right, we have pollution that is taking place in Mumbai and Kolkata and Chennai and various, say, Pune, Hyderabad and so on. But why Delhi is a very, very unique? You let me know in the comments below, because we just discussed this. We just discussed about the various causes. You let me know in the comments what do you think, why Delhi is unique in this aspect. Also, you let me know the answer of this 2016 PYQ in the comment section below as to what do we actually include in the air quality index. We also discussed this just now. So you let me know in the comments below. So right now we'll be moving on to the next topic. Now in this topic, we have a very interesting editorial. This is talking about the land scenario in the country. We know that we need land for our agriculture purposes, we need land for our industrial purposes, for various other purposes, for whatever say we need for our economic purposes. Land is at the center of everything apart from the various other factors of production. Can you let me know in the comments below that what are the 4 important factors of production, among which land is one? You let me know the 3 in the comments below. Now, when we come to the context, we have had various initiatives in the recent 2024-25 budget. Now, in this budget, there were various initiatives which were related to digitization of land records in the country. But according to this editorial and the various authors here, please, you can also note the names of these authors, right? You can actually use the names of the authors, their research in your answers to substantiate your argument. And people with economics optional people, they can actually note down the entire editorial in their note ready format pertaining to the sections where we have to look at the land reforms in economics, and we can also have important value addition from the same. Now, starting with this, we understand this is a very important topic for your economics and social development in prelims, and in GST we have a straight topic, from land reforms in the country. Now, we'll be not discussing about land reforms of the, say, zamindari reforms, the various amount of post-independent reforms we did over a period of time. We'll be focused on the recent article here and also the recent proposed land reforms in the recent budget. Now, according to the budget, we'll be just talking about what happened related to land in the budget. Now, states will be incentivized for land-related reforms and actions taken within the next 3 years to fiscal support. That means the center will be giving some amount of funds to states who are implementing the land reforms in a good manner, that is digitizing the land. Next, land-related reforms and actions in rural areas will be covering the, say, land administration and planning. In urban areas, it will be covering urban planning, usage and building bylaws. Bylaws are very, very important for our urban areas because we need proper amount of laws and regulations for the management of land resources of various people in the cities. And many municipalities, many urban local bodies, they sometimes do not even have proper bylaws for the management of this particular land. And that is where these bylaws will be in place. Next, the rural land related actions will be including the ULPIN, ULPIN or the Bhu Aadhaar for all land, digitization of cadastral maps, survey of various subdivisions, and also establishment of land registry and linking to the farmers registry. That is, will be actually, we have a proper vision of having a digital public infrastructure in the agriculture arena, which we also known as digital agricultural mission, right, under which we'll be trying to have proper amount of land surveys in around 3 years. We'll be covering the farmers lands, we'll be trying to map them, and we'll be having a digital survey of the kharif crops in around 400 districts of the country, and all of the details will be brought into something which we know as a land registry, which will be very important and very essential, and also will be increasing the amount of, or say, quality of governance in our country, right? Also, the land records in urban areas will be tagged or tagged online using GIS mapping, where the proper amount of land records will be maintained. Because why the government is taking all these initiatives? Because according to Economic Survey 2023-24, right, India's land governance system is a significant bottleneck to economic progress. Because we know for our agriculture purposes, for example, for our renewable energy projects, for our solar plants, we need large amount of lands, right, that we need solar plants, we need say solar cells, we need a lot of land for which we have also sometimes maybe have to say buy land from the people. We have to acquire land from the people. So there are various complex laws, regulations, which is trying to prevent or having a bottleneck whenever we have having some ambitions to promote renewable energy sector in the country. We also have various issues regarding industries and so on for public purposes, for example, so for say metro construction in various cities, for say various bridges and say various public institutions that is to be built, taking land. There's other various issues. Also, we have the various outdated and poorly maintained land records which contribute to insecurity and disputes over land ownership. In fact, let me tell you, land disputes are actually one of the main reasons as to why we have high amount of pending cases in our Indian judiciary. Right? Now, in the comment section, can you tell me what is the approximate number of cases which are pending at the Supreme Court level? Now, when we move on, we have to understand the limitations of the present reform, that is the digitization and the 2024-25 budget reforms pertaining to land. Firstly, when we talk about digitization, that is a good thing. But digitization is something which is not started right now for the very first time. Various state governments, also central government, have launched various initiatives which have been extremely slow. As we can understand here, right, there is NCAER, which is having a land index, right, which is looking at the status of digital land, right? We see that the top 5 states are Madhya Pradesh, Odisha, Maharashtra, Chhattisgarh, Tamil Nadu, right? Apart from this, we have on a national average of score of 38 out of 100. That is, the states are performing very poorly. very poorly when it is pertaining to the land digitization aspect. Also, we have the bottom states. We have states such as Bihar, we have states Assam and Kerala, which are also not doing proper work in the land digitization aspect. Next, we also have unclear land ownership. We have various generations of landowner and the disputes that happen between the next generations. We have legal complexities regarding various laws, and also we have conflicting laws across various state governments too, right? Because we know that land is a state subject. Next, we also try to disenfranchise the right to property. Can you tell me under which amendment it took place? So we do not have the right to property as a fundamental right. We have that as a legal right and a constitutional right, but not as a fundamental right, right? And also, there are various land laws in the country which are shielded under the 9th schedule. Hence, also they are protected kind of from the judicial review. Correct? Now, this is also another aspect of, say, increasing amount of land fragmentation in the country. As we can see in this particular map, in this particular, say, diagram, we find that according to agricultural census, the farmers who are having land less than, say, 2 hectares, right, they attribute to around more than 85% plus. So most of the farmers have very small parcels of lands, and that is also leading to declining amount of agriculture productivity. Obviously, if you have less amount of land, you won't be able to grow a diversity of crops, and the profitability will also be low. Then the varying restrictions are based on identity of the owner, land type, size of land holdings. Also, various states have various restrictions on the amount of land use. For example, agricultural land cannot be easily converted into, for example, say, a land that is needed for public purposes in village areas itself. There are various restrictions. Also, various states have restrictions on land leasing. For example, if you are owner of a land, you cannot easily lease out to any other person. That is actually kind of dependent on various state governments' rules and regulations. Next, in India, we also have very weak land markets, and mostly the land market in India is kind of also having a shadow transaction aspect. That is, most of the land that is transacted in the country is kind of taking place via black money, and that is often not recorded. If it is not recorded, the digitization also will not be proper. The land records will not be proper, and hence also it will be leading to more and more future legal disputes. Next, the officials, particularly in various states, they also are very corrupted according to various say reports and data, right? The officers, the state government, or say the government authorities, they have a rent-seeking attitude to increase, say, the amount of, say, corruption in the particular states. For example, in the state of Gujarat, we have around 40 sub-classifications of land, and we know that 40 sub-classifications is too big, and this amount of, say, exaggerated amount of classifications leave a lot of scope for increased amount of corruption. Now, we need to do something in this particular matter. Firstly, we have to address all of the issues we have discussed as of now, right? Then we have to integrate. For example, when we talk about farmers purchase fertilizers at various local shops where they have a point of sale, and they have to authenticate their details, and it will be very easy for us to target those shops and have a record of all the transactions of the various farmers and relate with their land data. So it will be actually very important, because we know that the farmers obviously will be needing to purchase the fertilizers. So on the agricultural side, we can actually go with this innovative kind of a technique. Next, we can also have good ecosystem of land banks. Land bank is extremely easy to understand. For example, you have a spare piece of land in, say, in a particular village. Your neighbor in the village also has a spare piece of land, right? What you do, you give your spare land to the government, or say to any other private agency, where they will be managing the land, they will be leasing out, renting out to any other people. So this is how various private companies, or say various agencies, government agencies, sometimes they can have an excess of land that can be rented out for the overall benefit of the society. Maybe some industrialists will be taking the land, maybe some startup will be taking the land to do agriculture. So also this can be prevalent in, say, urban areas, where we can actually create a land bank on this particular matter, right? That is why the Indian government has also launched a portal on Land Bank, which will be having a one-stop repository of plot view, satellite view of the terrain, heat maps on various forests and various, say, industrial park. And this will be launched in, say, for example, approximately in 6 states as of now. Then we must be having deeper legal and institutional reforms, as we have discussed regarding the various legal issues. We can also, according to the authors, you can also note this down, we can adopt the 6F framework. 6S framework is referring to the systematic state-led evaluation of technological solutions that the state governments can adopt to increase the viability of the various lands in the country. Next, we can also consider land consolidation to reduce the issue of land fragmentation. We know the land is fragmented into various small parcels less than 2 hectares, right? So we can actually try to consolidate all those lands. We can actually bring in various initiatives for the same. We must be also focusing on women land rights, because in India we know majorly they are actually the women who are involved in agricultural activities. So we must be also trying to give them land rights and having Gram Sabha look into this matter at a very serious level. Next, we can also have a multi-pronged approach involving the civil society organizations, the NGOs at the local level, to deal with this particular issue, and hence bring out the grievances of the local people in the public forum. Now, we have a mains practice question for all of you. As we have seen, there have been many topics that have repeated from the analyst in this year's mains. We also will be like to continuing this initiative by giving you mains practice questions. Here we have a question that by tackling the legal, administrative and institutional challenges that plague India's land governance system, the country can unlock its land resources. Explain. You let me know what are your thoughts, what are 2-3 thoughts or 2-3 things that you want to talk about, you want to give solutions in this particular matter in the comments below. Now we'll be moving on to the next topic. Now this topic is extremely interesting. This is about the history of Israel and Lebanon issue and how Hezbollah is actually a very, very important stakeholder in this matter. This is very important for your prelims aspect, where we can be asked on the various map related aspects of this conflict, because there have been many map based questions in the past. Next, we also have GS2, where we have to talk about what are the various conflicts taking place, and majorly we have to restrict ourselves on India's interest in this matter. Next, here, when we talk about the recent news, as we see that Israel-Hezbollah war is taking place right now, where Israel airstrikes are rocking Lebanon like anything, because Hezbollah is kind of based from Lebanon. Next, also we have various powerful blasts, bombings, right? We also have the Hezbollah chief, who was actually the Israel's prime target behind these attacks, right? Also, Israel has deployed tanks near Lebanon in preparation for ground offense. We know that Israel is located in this part of the world and Lebanon is also here. Collectively, we actually know this region as Levant, right? We actually know this is as Levant, and in 2022, there was a prelim question as to what Levant region is. So this is a Levant region which is actually fraught with many issues. Between Israel, we have various conflicts between, say, Israel and Lebanon, Syria and Jordan. Now for us, the mapping aspect is very important. Mainly, if you look at this zone, we have the Israel and Lebanon border, and between this border, we have the Sheba farms, we have the Golan Height, which is under Israeli occupation, which is kind of, say, bordering Syria, right? Then on the, say, northern Israel part, we have, say, Mount Hermon, which is actually bordering kind of with Lebanon. It is in Lebanon region itself, and this is also, we understand we have the Sea of Galilee located within Israel itself, and also a very important river which is the Litani River, and in this region we have the Mediterranean Sea. So these are all the important things we have to look at. Now from your side, you just look at the various places, or say the towns in news, right? The various towns in news which I am kind of circling, correct? Now recently, Benjamin Netanyahu, who is the Prime Minister of Israel, he told that he will be striking Lebanon with full force. And this is actually coming on the back of various historical issues due to the various conflicts that Israel and Lebanon were embroiled into. And the recent attacks on Lebanon have killed 700 people in the last week alone itself, right? And this is actually a very, very serious issue which is also leading to displacement of lots of people. Now when we look into this matter, we have to go back into history a little bit. We know in 1948, the state of Israel was established when the Jews all over the world, they came to Israel and kind of say they claimed their country. But between this, there were also a lot of Muslims population of Palestine region who were displaced due to the influx of Jews into Israel over a period of, actually it started from 1880s onwards, over 1900s, and finally when the state of Israel was established in 1948, the mass outflux of Palestinians, it took place, right? And also when we talk about the this particular event, this event is known as Nakba or catastrophe, because the sufferings of the Palestinian people during this time was very immense. And here Lebanon initially had a large Christian population, which was already be estimated at 40%. But after the Palestinians, they moved into, say, Lebanon, this created conflicts between the communities. And in 1960s, 70s, right, the PLO or Palestinian Liberation Organization, which was kind of effective in Israel itself after Israel's, say, establishment of state, right, it also gained support in Lebanon. And that is when the conflict started to build over a period of time. That is when the South Lebanon, which were actually filled with these Palestinian refugees, they started garnering support to actually take revenge on Israel. And in March 1978, in response to a massacre of Israelis near Tel Aviv by Palestinian militants who are based in Lebanon, right, Israel invaded South Lebanon. And after this invasion, there were lots of lives which were lost, and this was actually one of the main reasons which led to the rise of Hezbollah. Now, Hezbollah is actually known as the party of God or Allah, right? This was actually formed in response to the Israeli occupation of Lebanon or South Lebanon just after this massacre which took place at Tel Aviv. And here, this was actually founded with also the support of Iran, right? So, Iran has also very close link with Hezbollah top leaders and top militants according to various experts and researchers, right? Now, this group's initial goal was to resist Israeli occupation. Now, as we can see here, Jordan was subjected to many issues over a period of time. Firstly, we had this 6-day war, right? We had the Palestinian refugees who influxed into this region, right? Then in 1996, we had this Operation Grapes of Wrath. Also, this led to destruction of lots of lives, and this was actually led by Israel itself, right? More than 100 civilians were killed in Lebanon, right? Also, we understand that Hezbollah, over a period of time, they have been waging war against Israel, say various guerrilla attacks and various amounts of, say, other aspects, where the main aspect was to kick Israel out. And here, Hezbollah, over a period of time, after being in conflict with Israel, it also tried to deliver various social services for the local people, due to which it is also having the support of the local people. And that is very important. That is why they are very successful in this particular region and having the support of the local people. Now, this long conflict that is being continuing over a period of time, over a period of decades, right? This is being controlling, this overall politics of this Middle East Israel region over a period of time. And this has also shaped Middle East in multiple ways. Hezbollah is actually still now considered as the crown jewel of Iran's overseas military operations. There have been allegations how Hezbollah has been also been very active in Syria, in Damascus, in various other regions of Syria, and also in various parts of the Middle East, right? It has been the spearhead of resistance against Israel and also powerful strategy of Tehran, right? It is also very adept at guerrilla warfare and rocket attacks, which have been also copied or say adopted by various other Palestinian groups, right? But the recent attacks, as we can see, this is actually something which even Hezbollah cannot think of. Even Lebanon called for a truce with Israel, because right now Israel is in a mood to totally demolish this region. And this is what is sparking fears across the entire world. And also India cannot escape, say, directly or indirectly this conflict, because we have 8.7 million Indians who live and work in West Asia. Much of India's trade revenues nationally and remittances come from West Asia. Next, we also have various initiatives planned, such as the India, Europe, Middle East Economic Corridor. We also have the various, projects with reference to Chabahar Port and with reference to various other initiatives which will be building infrastructure in the say this region, that will be also be affected. India is now also Israel's largest arms purchaser. Then relations with Arab world and the global south will also be affected if India is not having a proper stance. That is why even in recent times our Prime Minister has also requested to talk to the Palestinian authorities, Palestinian leaderships, to actually look into the various issues and if India can actually solve in this particular matter. In the meantime, India has also issued travel advisories to not to travel to Lebanon, and also Indian army in Lebanon watches very closely as Israel and Hezbollah hostilities increase over a period of time. Now, we'll be moving on to the next article. In the next article, we'll be looking into some statements by our External Affairs Minister, S. Jaishankar, who is talking about the significance of BRICS. Now, this is a very important topic for your prelims examination, where we have current events of national and international importance, where there are questions on international organizations. And for our GS2, we definitely have to look at various global groupings that affect India's interest. Now, when we talk about BRICS, BRICS is consisted of Brazil, Russia, India, China and South Africa. These were the initial members when BRICS was formed. Actually, BRICS was an idea by a Goldman Sachs economist who looked at these BRICS countries as the main dominating force at when the world will be progressing to 2050, when the global economy will be dominated by BRICS, these countries. Now, recently BRICS was expanded to include Argentina, Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran, Saudi Arabia and the UAE, right? And also we have to look into the various initiatives of the BRICS. Firstly, BRICS looks into the political and security cooperation between the nation. It also looked into the various aspects of anti-terrorism activities in the region. Next, we have the BRICS National Advisors meeting, where we have to talk about the various aspects of how the national securities and the regional securities will be maintained in this particular region. Next, when it comes to economic and financial cooperation, it is very significant because BRICS have something which we know as the New Development Bank and the Contingent Reserve Arrangement. Now, New Development Bank was actually modeled on the, say, World Bank Group, where it will be giving countries, not only countries between in the BRICS, but also to all of the countries all over the world to take various development loans at the tune of around, say, various billions of dollars. They can take the loan and they can actually do development in the region. Then we also have this contingent reserve assignment, which is actually a short-term currency solution for the various countries which are embroiled in, say, foreign exchange crisis issues, right? So these are actually the various economic, say, cooperation initiatives which is taken by, say, this BRICS, right? Then also we have this BRICS payment system, where we have a proper amount of payment system between the various countries. Also, we have to discuss about this New Development Bank, where we have Bangladesh, UAE, Egypt and Uruguay, who are the new members of the, say, New Development Bank, and recently more and more countries are actually getting hooked to the NDB. Now, in the comment section again, can you let me know where we have the headquarters of New Development Bank? And also, when we talk about lastly about the cultural and people-to-people contacts, we have the BRICS Parliamentary Forum, Film Festival, Youth Summit and Academic Forum to build better amount of contacts between the people of the particular countries here. Now, when we look at this news, right, we actually have to understand that the EAM or External Affairs Minister recently met with the BRICS counterparts at the recent UNG or United Nations General Assembly. Now, the minister actually highlighted that we have to understand that the world is going for a multipolar situation, and also India has to be ready with the same. We understand that, you know, after the collapse of the USSR in 1990s, it is majorly the USA which became the major power, both economically, militarily, politically. So that is when, you know, according to various, you know, experts in the IR region, right, they say that after 1990s, the world emerged as a unipolar world, because the US was actually controlling all the things, calling all the shots. But after the emergence of China, right, particularly in early 2000 decades, right, China increased its economic importance over a period of time, and that is when right now also China is expanding militarily, defense activities and so on. That is when, you know, we are having a situation of multipolar world. And also India is growing over a period of time. Gradually we have various parts of the world who will be having proper economic strength over a period of time. So that is when The significance of multipolarity is very important. And also we have to understand what India is getting as a member out of Quad and also BRICS and also the Shanghai Cooperation was a question which was asked to Mr. Jaishankar here. And he replied that the BRICS group was made in the interest of the non-Western countries. If you see in these members, there are no Western countries. And also, this was established to build on the collective economic strength. As we can understand that the share of BRICS group in global population, right, if you understand, it is 46%. Global GDP, it is around 29%. And also when we talk about, say, the oil production, it is having 43%. So these are the alliance of non-Western countries which are like-minded nations. And if we can progress together, this is actually a very good opportunity for the entire world to follow. So that is when we have these two PYQs from 2016 and 15. You please let me know individually the answer of the same in the comments below. In this next article, we'll be looking into a very interesting term which we know as China Shock 2.0. China Shock 2.0 is in the news and this is important for prelims. We have to look at economic and social development firstly. Next, in GS2, we also have to look into the effects of policies and politics of developed and developing nations, how they impact India's interest, because this is something that China is doing over a period of time and most of the countries in the world are not exactly happy with. Also, apart from GS2, you can use this example in our GS3 also when we have to discuss about Indian economy and where we have the sectors of external sector and we have to also talk about export and import trends of the country over a period of time, right? So let us start. Now what the term is all about. Firstly, we have to go back into history a little bit. We know that the US, we discussed just now, that US emerged as the single power after 1990s with the collapse of the USSR. Also over a period of time, US was also helping various other nations, right, to develop. That one of those nations was China. Back in 50s, 60s, when US started ping pong diplomacy with China, right, when the, a very famous, say, foreign officer of US, that is Henry Kissinger, started negotiating with the Chinese country for the very first time. Since then, USA has been helping China over a period of time. And that is when, after the establishment of the WTO, initially China was not a part of the same. But with the insistence of Bill Clinton, who was the US president back then, he supported China's accession to the US, China's accession to the WTO. And this particular activity led to China being developed over a period of time, because once you become a member of the WTO, all of the countries, they have to do what? They have to liberalize trade, they have to reduce import duties, they have to reduce the import taxes, and you have to liberalize the external economy. So that is when China exploited this benefit of joining the WTO. What China immediately did, it started say production of cheap manufactured goods, for example electronic items, various other goods we generally know. It started producing those items and started exporting to various nations, to India, to US, to Europe, and so on. What it led to? It led to the, say, supply of various commodities that increased abroad. For example, say, take the example of toys. So it increases the supply of toys in India, and if supply increases, price decreases, and if price decreases of toys in our domestic country, the domestic toy manufacturing companies, they will be at a loss, right? And additionally, what China did, they intentionally supplied this particular toys or various other electronic items all across the world at intentionally very low prices. When you intentionally, export any item to any other nation in their domestic market and you intentionally reduce the prices to totally eliminate the domestic competition in that country, that is something which you know as dumping, right? Simply, in very simple term, that is what we know as dumping, right, in international trade. So China was doing this particular issue since it's, actually joined WTO, and that is why over a period of time, China started dominating the markets internationally by dumping, and that is when we understand India is also having a high amount of deficit. As we can see, it is more than India's exports, it is actually imports that is leading to high amount of deficits over a period of time with China. Also, when we talked just about China's inclusion in the WTO,
the entire world got this as a shock. The US ran in deficit with China, India ran in deficit with China. This was actually, China shock 1.0, when China was included into WTO, and after this, inexpensive Chinese good backed by abundant labor flooded global markets, leading to manufacturing losses, job losses, and disrupted Western markets, affected Indian markets too. And also, according to various academics, we know that China is exactly not a market economy. We have various, the government in China supporting various industries in China by giving heavy subsidies to reduce deliberately prices and have various dumping effects, due to which in India and also in various parts of the world, we have various anti-dumping duties, that is to increase the imported price by levying some taxes, right, by levying some duties. That is actually known as the anti-dumping duties. So this is also a scenario which the entire world is right now doing. So this was a China shock 1.0. After the pandemic, something else happened. After the pandemic, China progressed ahead in EVs, in semiconductors, which are the critical sectors of our world right now. And this is actually what we know as China shock 2.0, that after the pandemic, as we can see, US, Japan, all of the other countries, rest of the world, right, they did not see their, global share of exports increasing after the pandemic. But look at China here. It has increased like anything. Now let us look at other aspects here, right? Recently what happened, right, pertaining to this China shock 2.0, when after the pandemic, Chinese exports to the entire world increased. US recently, it has slapped 100% duty on electric vehicles. Also India did the same, right? India also slapped some anti-dumping duties on China, right? And also we understand that majority of the manufactured products all around the world, they are cheaply manufactured by China and so on. Also what China is doing, China is quietly blocking India's own access to solar equipment, because we know we are dependent on China for our solar equipments, because 80% of the India's solar cells and modules still come from China. According to International Energy Agency, China dominates the entire solar manufacturing supply chain all across the world. China produces 85% of the global supply of solar cells, let alone India, right? The global aspect is led, by China here. And also we understand that the renewed wave of, exports by China is not something that China is trying to diversify its, global supply chain. It is not the only reason. Another reason, right, is actually the domestic slump, or the domestic lack of demand, lack of GDP growth in China itself. So if we do not have growth in our home, we'll be going abroad. That is exactly what China is doing. It is trying to improve the export profits from rest of the world. And that is leading to what? According to various studies, as we can see in this particular figure here, the manufacturing jobs and the non-manufacturing jobs has been decreasing over a period of time due to China. This is actually the statistics of the entire world, how the share of manufacturing jobs and non-manufacturing jobs have decreased. Next, we also see about the steel import cases and the electronic cases. We understand that, what China deliberately did, it deliberately decreased the prices of steel, and it, as we can see, the average price per ton of steel, it is very low. And what is the major implication of this? If it is very low, the competition is totally wiped out, and it is China who is having the major share in the steel export all across the world. Major economies, even India, is dependent on China on this matter. Next, when we talk about electronics, right, while over a period of time, we know we have Apple, we have Samsung, we have various Google and various other companies who are trying to enter India, because they are following something which we know as China plus one strategy. Because we know China is not a very friendly country when it comes to, various territorial expansions and so on. So that is when the entire private sector, they have realized that we have to adopt another country apart from China for our manufacturing activity. That is why Apple and various other companies, they have been setting up shops, setting up manufacturing units in India itself. But still then in financial year 2024, India imported electronic items worth $12 billion from China and $6 billion from Hong Kong. So around $18 billion worth of say imports from China and Hong Kong, right? Now can you in the comments section tell me, is Hong Kong a part of China or not? Also, is Taiwan a part of China or not? We all discussed this in the previous analyst sessions. So as we can see here, while see the companies all around the world, they are trying to say over a period of time, as we can see, over a period of time across quarters, we can see here, there are many companies who are trying to increase their presence in India, right? But still we have this high amount of loss of foreign exchange to China. But we are optimistic that maybe this China shock 2.0 will be able to deliver some of the say economic damage or implications to China and will be improving our balance in this respect. Now let us move on to the next article. In the next article, we'll be looking into this case where recently the Supreme Court has actually expressed high amount of concern regarding a Karnataka based justice or say a justice belonging to the Karnataka High Court, where there have been various unethical practices or say unethical statements delivered by this particular judge. So we'll be looking into how Supreme Court deals with this kind of judges in this particular matter. This is a very important aspect for UPSC prelims, where we have to look into Indian polity and governance, and also for our GS2 mains, where we have to look into the structure, organization and functioning of the executive and the judiciary. Now in this matter, we have seen that the Supreme Court has told the judges to stop making casual comments in the courtroom, and also we know that the Supreme Court has rebuked the High Court judge that you cannot call any part of India as, you know, Pakistan because of the recent statement made by the Karnataka High Court judge, right? Now we understand that this is a particular situation when the judges are sending a wrong message to the society. So that is why we have to do something when this particular incidents happen in the public forum. So is it that the judges, they enjoy a high prestige, high power or high degree of protection, but is it that they're completely immune from everything? Is there no watchdogs which are trying to have a proper regulation on this conduct of the judges? No, because according to the Constitution, Article number 124, subclause 4, a judge of the Supreme Court or any High Court can be removed from the office only by the order of the President after an address by each House of the Parliament, which is actually supported by majority of the total membership of that House and by a majority of not less than 2/3 of the members of the House present and voting. So this means that there is a procedure which we know as impeachment. Impeachment of the judges of the High Court and the Supreme Court. And this particular thing is only applicable under two grounds. Firstly, a proven misbehavior or incapacity. Now, sometimes we understand that over a period of time in our say polity history, right, there have been no particular judge who have been impeached as of now. In 1993, 2011, 2015, 17 and 18, we have had various impeachment cases which were initiated regarding various judges in the country, but never, it was never successful in any of the cases, right? So that is what we have to understand, that the level of political consensus required to pass any impeachment motion is extremely very high. So that is what, you know, we understand that impeachment is not always very effective when it is say pertaining to this particular aspect. But there are some other things where the Supreme Court itself has. The Supreme Court itself has some authority on its own to deal with the judges or you know, pertaining to any kind of misbehavior or unethical standards. Firstly, they can directly take a judicial side, they can take a judicial approach, judicial action, such as holding a judge guilty of contempt of court, as was seen in 2017. Another way is that it can also take the approach via collegium, where we understand the collegium, the Supreme Court collegium is consisting of 5 senior most judges of the say Supreme Court, including the CJI. So what they can do, they can transfer the judge according to they say various statements being passed or say any unethical practice being say held. So these are actually the two ways. Apart from impeachment, the Supreme Court itself can bring in some reforms. Now, according to this, we also have a 2019 PYQs. So please do let me know the answer of the same in the comments below. In the next article, we will be understanding the GST compensation cess and the various debate surrounding the same. Now, this particular thing is that the GST compensation cess will be continued beyond 2026. This is very important for our economy and social development, and for a GST portion where we have Indian economy and issues pertaining to various say resources, growth, mobilization, and also we have say the government budgeting aspect of GS3. So when we talk about GST compensation cess, we understand that GST was introduced in 2017-18 financial year. And when GST was implemented, there were various states who expected that the loss of revenue due to implementation of GST will be very high. Because we understand this GST is a new system, and if we bring in any new system, that can disrupt the existing systems. So that is why the center was asked by the states to compensate them for the loss of revenues arising due to the implementation of GST. So that is why an act was brought. So this is a statutory aspect which was brought in to compensate for any revenue shortfall below 14% growth at 2015-16 levels. That means over a period of time, every state government used to expect some increase in the tax collection revenue. That was average around 12, 13, 14% before GST. So after GST, since the revenues will be lost, it was expected, right? So right now at 2015-16 revenue levels, or the tax revenue levels, the government, central government has to give or compensate the states with extra resources apart from the GST revenues that it will be getting. And initially it was held for 5 years, but from where center will be getting the money? Center will be getting the money from, say, the various levies on regular GST on notified goods, mainly the luxury goods and the demerit goods such as cigarettes. And also, as we know that it is paid every 2 months by the GST Council, and the pandemic impact, right, it totally impacted the 5-year scenario, because from 2017, the GST compensation cess was supposed to expire in 2022. But due to pandemic, the state's revenues were further hurt. And that is when we understand that during this pandemic years, as we can see, 2020 and 21, the shortfall was kind of negative, and it was actually very, very serious issue. That is why the states asked for the extension of the GST compensation cess. And that is what we have to understand from this article, that the center is kind of agreeing on within the purview of the GST Council that GST compensation cess will be extended, right? It can be also extended beyond 2026, right? Maybe it will be taking some form of a loan or interest-free loans that will be given to the state governments. And we also understand this is a particular cess, right? This is a cess, and under the constitution, cess can be only be levied by the center and also for very specified purposes, right? And here, according to the estimate, roughly 20,000 crore per month will be collected by GST compensation cess in a status quo, or say usual status, what is following right now as of 2026 February, right? And also we understand that the currently goods such as tobacco products, pan masala, aerated water are among the products which attract the highest GST rates of 28%. And on this only the compensation cess are also being collected as of now. And if you understand, if we further increase the compensations over these items, it will be leading to more than 40% effective GST, which is not allowed on the GST Act, which will be unconstitutional, right? So that is where the states will be also needing to discuss with this particular matter with the center in the GST Council. Also, whatever the renamed or new cess will be decided, this will be appropriated between the center and the states on just the models of the integrated GST, which is actually, say, apart from the CGST and the state GST, another was the integrated GST, of which the revenue goes to both center and the state governments. Also, we can see here the states which need GST, compensation most, the Karnataka, Maharashtra, Gujarat, and so on. So this is where we understand will be most important topics from this article. In the next article, we'll be looking into a recent initiative taken by the Indian government to improve the foreign tourist scenario in the country. This is very important for our prelims because we have polity and governance in the same, and also in our GS2 we have Indian diaspora. Now, in this particular aspect, we firstly will be looking at the various Indian tourism initiatives taken by the government of India. Now, according to Travel and Tourism Development Index by WEF, World Economic Forum, India is ranked at 39th. India is also estimated to contribute $250 billion to our GDP from, say, our tourism aspect, creating around, say, 137 million jobs in the tourism sector, $56 billion in foreign exchange earnings, 25 million foreign tourist arrivals are expected to achieve by 2030. Apart from this, Indian government has been taking many efforts such as Visit India 2023 year campaign, right? We have the draft national tourism policy of 2022 to promote tourism, have proper tourism related infrastructure such as railways, airports and so on. We have Yuva tourism to increase the youth aspect of tourism from foreign countries, from NRIs into India. We have Ministry of Ports Shipping, who is trying to make India a destination for cruise tourism. We have MEA, Ministry of External Affairs, to promote tourism officers in 20 countries where we have the most tourists coming from abroad. We have 20 Indian missions with proper tourist officers. Next, we have Swadesh Darshan scheme to welcome NRIs and various other people to look into our Indian art and heritage. We have funding commercial flight routes for countries where tourists can come from. We have also this PM Prasad initiative, where this is about safeguarding India's heritage, and it is also about, say, rebuilding various heritage cultures to boost tourism in the country. But according to recent data, we have found that the recent numbers of tourists have been falling due to the pandemic, or say the after the pandemic impact. So the data of the same is also given here. It is very important for our mains answer writing. Now, under this particular new campaign, this is known as Chalo India campaign, where this is the first of its kind initiative, where the government will be allowing the friends of our diaspora abroad, who are also known as, in one case, the overseas citizens of India, right? The overseas citizens of India are having proper amount of, say, benefits. For example, say they can be having a lifetime visa to India, right? They can be exempted from police reporting. They have also all the rights in the economic, financial, education fields in respect with NRIs too, right? So these are the people who are granted this particular Chalo India campaign, and up to 5 foreign nationals nominated by OCI card holders, they can be eligible for gratis e-visa. So this e-visa is actually a kind of a financial initiative after discussing with various, say, ministries, external affairs ministries, finance ministry and tourism ministries. This financial initiative of, say, having a portal or say this kind of initiative was finalized, and this was granted with the approval of the finance ministry. And there are around 32 million OCI card holders. The total number of free e-visas to be granted will be around 1 lakh, and this will be empowering the, say, diaspora members to serve as ambassadors. So they can actually tell the foreign nationals to come to India. In this way, they can be our own, brand ambassador for Incredible India, and they can invite as many friends as possible, and they can actually earn rewards in respect to that. So this is almost kind of a referral scheme that you can go to India, and this particular thing will be facilitating the Indian diaspora to spread awareness about India in the international forum. And in the last article, we'll be discussing about the various contributions of Sardar Bhagat Singh, and this is very important for our prelims when we have to discuss about Indian history and the Indian national movement. Also in GS1, we have Indian freedom struggle and the various stages and important contributions from various parts of the country. When we look at, say, the early life and joining the freedom struggle, right? Bhagat Singh was born in Amritsar. He joined the 23 Cavalry as a frontier force, right? He was actually part of the defense, and he also established the Naujawan Bharat Sabha and also joined the Hindustan Republic Association. And he is also mostly the main idea or inspiration behind Bhagat Singh was to avenge Lala Lajpat Rai's death, which was caused by James Scott, who was the superintendent of Lahore. So what he did in December 1928, Bhagat Singh along with Sukhdev and Rajguru planned to avenge Lala Lajpat Rai's death by assassinating James Scott. Also, in a separate incident, they also carried out the assembly bombing, and also this took place on 8th of April 1929. He and Batukeshwar Dutt threw bombs inside the assembly, shouting "Inqilab Zindabad," the famous dialogue, right? On 23rd March 1931, Bhagat Singh, Rajguru, Sukhdev were hanged on the basis of this Lahore conspiracy case, and after that they became immortal in the pages of our Indian history. Also, during the same court proceedings, Bhagat Singh told that they can kill me, but they cannot kill my ideas. They can crush my body, but they will not be able to crush my spirit. Very, very inspirational quote by him. Also, apart from this, we have various other contributions on socialism, where he defined socialism scientifically as the abolition of capitalism and class domination. He believed that, in a society where all individuals had equal rights and opportunities free from exploitation and oppression. He had also authored 2 books. Why I Am an Atheist, and the Jail Notebook and Other Writings, where this is an excerpt from Why Am I an Atheist, which will be very important for our essay purposes too. So I thank you for all being a very patient audience. Please do attempt the quiz which is following up. All the best and best of luck till we meet again. Thank you.